Along the banks of the Savannah River and in the heart of one of the most significant historic cities in the United States stands one of the nation's earliest electrical power plants. Built in 1912, Plant Riverside would become the primary source of power for Savannah, Georgia, and its seaports. Today, after having served this city admirably for nearly 100 years, this poignant symbol of industry is preparing to serve a new purpose. Hotelier Richard Kessler and a dedicated team of architects, historic preservationists, designers, and builders are embarking on a massive repurposing project, converting this industrial cathedral into the centerpiece of a new district, anchored by hospitality, retail, dining, music, art, and numerous public spaces. Truly an entertainment district.
When Plant Riverside was built some 100 years ago, they were looking to the future of what power would mean to this city. And today, as we go forward, we too are looking to the future.
Adaptive reuse, or repurposing, is the process of taking an old building or site and reviving it for a new purpose beyond what it was originally designed for. Sustainability is achieved through adaptive reuse. Building reuse also offers a very effective means of achieving economic, environmental, and social sustainability goals. In fact, the National Trust says the greenest building is the one that's already built. It is not widely known, but the renovation and reuse of existing buildings consistently yields fewer environmental impacts than demolition and new construction.
We care about our planet, we care about our natural resources, and reclaiming what we can, and reusing and reinventing new ways to give it a new purpose and make it beautiful.
Preserving historic landmarks, conserving land, reducing urban sprawl, these are just some of the goals of adaptive use.
It also preserves memories that are in the people that have worked in these places.
This is one of the last manual plants you're going to see, where a human being had to watch something. You made a red mark there. That line got there, you knew to come over here and adjust this to bring it back down. A human had to do that.
When Plant Riverside was designed, it was something new. There were very few power plants around the United States, so there was no typical model for a power plant building. So here we are, standing on the shoulders of their work that they did over 100 years ago. A beautiful building that would be very difficult to reproduce today. It has patina, it has a feel to it, and the architecture must be saved.
One risk in historic preservation is to freeze buildings in time. But in a city like Savannah, that has been at the forefront of historic preservation, we'd rather see a continuous tradition of living buildings over 4 centuries. That opens entirely new opportunities for buildings to evolve. There are moments when we go beyond conservation and restoration of historic elements, and we have to make interventions into the building that will show that it is, in fact, a living building, and it's a building that is going into a new use. So working very closely with the preservation community, with our Historic District Board of Review in Savannah, working with the Georgia State Historic Preservation Office, and working with the National Park Service, at each level seeking the most appropriate, the most contextual solutions to allow this building as a living building to have a new chapter, and do so in a way that honors every layer of its history. The urban design and architecture for the Plant Riverside Entertainment District will be a balance between highlighting the past and projecting the future. When this electric power plant was first built, it housed one of the most futuristic technologies a person at that time might have encountered. We are taking that cue to look to the future, while at the same time respecting the reality of what this building is. So the building will be evident all around you, wherever you are. Its earlier layers are there to communicate.
And we're upcycling as many parts of this design that exist as we possibly can, and honoring what is already here.
We're really looking to repurpose as much as we can, and we find all these beautiful elements of surprise throughout the construction process. For example, for the African Lounge, the team found an old industrial barn door in the basement that we can reuse.
From the power plant.
From the power plant. Yeah. But what we're really trying to do is anything that we can find in this power plant, reusing it, repurposing it in all these different fashions and forms.
So really, no matter where you are, dining in the generator hall or any of these food and beverage spaces, we're really embracing, right, the industrial character of it.
Right.
The Kessler Collection does its own interior design in-house. This creates continuity in the high level of experience in the Kessler Collection properties, even while each location is entirely unique, rooted in themes relevant to their city and site. The underlying goal, to inspire, remains at the heart of all their designs.
Interior design is critically important in delivering the type of luxury accommodations one will enjoy here at Plant Riverside.
We have also worked with John T. Campo and Associates, Sotil and Sotil, and PFVS Architects for their respective expertise in boutique hospitality design, urban design, and large-scale historic preservation experience.
Not only does it take a wonderful architectural group to bring about a project like this, it also takes tremendous engineers to help. You have the site work, which is a challenge in itself, being on the river. In addition to this adaptive reuse of the historic Plant Riverside, we're building some new buildings, and they're to be complementary buildings to the power plant.
So in developing a language for architecture in a site with so much frontage, it became important to not think of this as a one-size-fits-all solution. So if you really back up and you think about the span of thought, we have a project that has references to architecture of the 18th and 19th and 20th century, the power plant, which is in itself all of those layers, and then a building that looks to the 21st century in a way that recalls the intention of the power plant as a monumental industrial structure with civic aspirations.
The vision from the very beginning was to build an iconic entertainment complex that promotes and celebrates quality of life through its architecture and its programs for citizens and for our visitors. And all of this will be anchored by this wonderful JW Marriott Hotel that we're very excited about. 419 rooms. There'll be 3 pavilions right here on the water, watching ships like you're gonna see here in a minute and tugboats come by. Over the years, this particular spot was very, very important in the history of Savannah, Georgia. It was always a place of commerce, a place of activity. And today, it's a beautiful place that you can sit and watch these huge ships, some as long as 1,100 feet, pass by. And so close, it feels like you could reach out and touch these ships as they come through. I'm often asked by people, what are you going to do with those 2 tall smokestacks? Are you going to take them down? And certainly not. We're not going to take them down. Actually, we will refurbish them, get them all clean again. They'll be lit and they'll be a part of the iconic design of the building. Here at Plant Riverside, as part of our entertainment, we will have 3 rooftop lounges. The big one will be the Electric Moon. That will be on top of the historic Plant Riverside building.
The electric moon that you see in the background here underneath the big smokestacks, that'll be a very energetic kind of space, a real industrial raw feel.
You know, once you're inside the Electric Moon, you won't see the smokestacks, but we're designing these fixtures. It's gonna have like an infinity mirror look to it, and it's gonna have that illusion that you're looking up into the smokestacks.
When you're on the outside and it's lit up at night, we're gonna have these beams of light shooting up through it. So
Yeah.
whether you're inside Electric Moon or you're outside, it looks like, you know, the smokestack goes on for infinity.
Right.
Yeah.
Great views, great vibrancy,
Yeah.
very clean, very, allowing these exposed metal elements to really express the industrial feel of the space.
The other cool feature you have is you've got all these scissor doors that open up to the outside, so you've got a big open space.
I'm often asked, why the name Electric Moon? I love the name. What's the history of that? Well, actually, we discovered them when we looked at some drawings from the 1800s, and they were basically what we would say today looks like a cell tower with big light bulbs that would throw a moonlight glow across major city intersections. But it's a fascinating history and a part of Savannah.
So here on the north facade of the old power plant, these are the original 1912 windows. Thinking back to what they once were, seemed like a monumental task to restore those. These are the same components that were installed in 1912. They've been through an extensive amount of work, not the least of which was putting clear glass in. They blacked out a lot of these original windows during wartime. These windows are also really important to the architecture of this space. Some of these rooms here on this level are actually lofts. So there's a handful of very nice guest rooms here that face the river and actually incorporate the arch of the original window into the space. So this is if you're coming off the main elevators that serve the guest room floors on the north side of the power plant. As you enter onto your floor, one of the interesting features is we've saved and maintained one of the original stacks. So it's a focal point now in the guest room corridor as you come to your space.
The old masonry smokestack sits roughly halfway through the space. A smokestack that once extended 250 feet, defining the Savannah skyline, still remains within the building. It becomes the centerpiece. As you enter this generator hall from River Street, you actually move around the base of the original masonry smokestack with a gallery on one side, with a wine tasting room on the other side. You make your way into the generator hall. There's a massive gantry crane set on tracks that roll from edge to edge within the space, and it is still here. That crane will remain in place. We're going to bring it into the center of the room and use it as an opportunity to celebrate its own architectural character.
And we use these cranes. That's what those big hooks are for. You would hook these big old chokers and harnesses, and you would pull these things out of there and set them on the ground somewhere else, or either set them on a truck and have them sent off. And that's what the crane mainly was for, was to lift all this heavy equipment off of these turbines and generators. When you look down, all you seen was turbines and generators all the way down this thing. Every time that the growth of the city would extend out, they put another turbine in. And that's how they kept up with times. This was a gathering point in case of a hurricane, storm, or if something was to happen war-wise. Riverside plant was a civil defense spot. I don't think a lot of people know that. Those units back there were built and ran during World War II, and they was given an award here from the president. It hung on the wall. It was a beautiful picture of the thanks for this plant running all the way through. I think it was 43 and 44 through the hard parts of the war. They built the plant here. The first turbine generator they brought where guys rolled it down on logs, but they rolled it down a hill with mules and brought it and put it in place.
As we dig to put in underground structures, we have found many pilings that were here some 100 years. Incredible. And we are using these beautiful pieces of heart pine timber. We're milling them, and we will be using them in furniture and specialty pieces here in the hotel.
We're reclaiming them, and we're going to bring them back to life, give them a second life in the building, not as a structural member, but as a decoration, as art. I think this is their second life. Everything that was here was trees that were 150 to 200 years old at the time they were cut. They've been submerged in the river for 100 years. And when we sliced them open, what we found was near perfect wood. The water had preserved everything. There was no decay. The internal sap of the pine was still intact and still sticky. So today, here on the riverfront, they're driving new sheet pilings, the modern equivalent to the old river wood pilings that were originally set to hold the Savannah River into its banks. I think one of the most thrilling aspects of this project is being able to reclaim what has been here for many, many years.
While excavating on site, we unearthed historic Belgian block material from earlier layers of development and historic brick. In fact, 575,000 bricks were cleaned to be used on some of the new structures so that these materials would stay with the site and continue to tell their stories.
So these are the mock-ups of the exterior of Building A.
Okay.
Playing with it, get the mortar joints just right.
Okay.
If you recall, these bricks that were
Yeah.
all over this whole end,
Yeah.
all those bricks got cleaned, palletized, and are now being reinstalled on the first floor of this building.
Wow.
So when we inventoried the salvage material, we had enough to do the entire first floor of this building in the old brick. So as you walk River Street, you know, the feel on both sides of the street's the same. And then we also did a design kind of reconnaissance lap of Factor's Walk, the joint sizes, the way the joints are tooled and raked, and the depth of the joint. is all in these panels because of how it, blends in with the neighborhood.
In the design of this complex, we realized that all buildings were on show. There were no back of the house sides of the buildings.
Thinking about how you could connect these buildings from a service standpoint and keep the facades free of all the back of house and loading docks and the things that you don't want to see.
And so what we did is we looked at the tunnel that ran through the existing historic building. We've extended that into the west building and into the Three Muses to the east.
This tunnel, which once served to provide steam and water to the generators, will now bring new kinds of services to the buildings across the district.
In the ceiling of this space is where we bring all our utilities. The full length of the campus basically runs this spline.
It's really going to save time, make operations much easier, save us in labor. It costs a bill, but it's going to save us on the long run.
This is one of our few remaining spots where you can see how the old turns into the new. So let me just kind of walk through our steps here. Original power plant basement floor has a little water on it from rain this week. All this piping is our new drain piping. That's under your future spa. So basically we do our rough end, we fill it up with the structural foam, then we place our new final finished basement floor on top of that.
When this is all finished, this is going to be a gorgeous spa. It'll be colorful, high ceilings, it'll be a beautiful, beautiful space.
So from here down, it's really interesting to the engineers.
Right.
And from here up, it's really glamorous.
AECOM Hunt Construction Company has done a great job in helping us bring this to life. Working with our architects, with our design team, with the city of Savannah, they pull it all together and they're making it happen. Adaptive reuse is not easy. You obviously are given a building, a spirit, a feeling, a piece of architecture that you have to respect. And you have to learn to work with that architecture and listen to what that piece of architecture says to you. Then it comes alive again.
Having the opportunity to work on this project has been really the highlight of a career, and one that we take with a great sense of excitement and import. You endeavor in every way to retain the character and the elements that are here now in the midst of an enormous amount of work that must be done to convert this building to human use as a hotel, as an entertainment place, as a place with restaurants and music and galleries and art, all kinds of new uses that were never envisioned to be here, but to let this building speak through all of the layers that have come before.
We must be responsible stewards of such historical structures as Plant Riverside, places that are important to the history of any city.
Around the world, urban cores are having a second renaissance. Preserving these spaces and keeping them relevant and thriving requires conscious effort and dedication, the desire to get it right, and the will to pay attention to both the grandest visions and the most finite details.
We look forward to the completion of this very important project. We know it's important in the history of Savannah, Georgia, and we're excited about sharing it with you. We hope you too are inspired as you visit this place.
It is our goal that after this grand repurposing project is complete, Plant Riverside will be a place that will delight and inspire.